Before we get to Kayleigh, let's get to the big three.
Number 3.
Back in my great state of California, my very own governor, Gavin Newsom, with the way he's overlooked women, half the population, by devaluing us in midlife, he probably should not be our next president either.
I agree, Halle Berry. Let's hope he's not. Not too early to talk about 26 or 28 elections as we begin to analyze the special election result Tuesday, and Dems take aim at each other already for the 28 nomination. We bring you all the fireworks.
Number 2.
I think 2026 is going to be a great year. The president set the table. He's done peace deals, trade deals, tax deals, and the economic policy is really a three-legged stool.
All aspects of the economy front and center, from automobiles to healthcare to affordability, as the Trump team fans out to explain their action plan.
Number 1.
There is no such thing as a narco-terrorist, but people on a boat carrying cocaine are not a direct threat to the lives of our service members.
This is not who we are. This is not America.
Yes, it is. It is America. And drugs on a boat heading our direction is a problem. Latest Trump attack distraction is focusing on Venezuelans' drug boats and the double tap attacks. The real story is the ousting of Maduro, as at least one Republican and some MAGA supporters expressed their objections. Let's bring in Kayleigh before she gets on Outnumbered shortly. Kayleigh, great to see you. It's been 6 minutes.
Good to be here. It's been 6 minutes. You miss me?
I did. I'm just wondering when you're going to get sick of me. At this point, I mean, that's
Never,
really
Brian.
the story. I'm really testing our relationship. But Kayleigh, in particular, what do you think about the fact that the Democrats are trying to downplay the drug threat from Venezuela? They're actually siding with the guy, saying the guy driving the boats, don't blame them.
Yeah, they always do. And President Trump, he's a master at this. First, policy-wise, he just does what's right. But the impact of that is luring Democrats into doing these inconceivable things. He's lured them into defending narco-terrorists. He's lured them into defending criminal illegal immigrants. He's lured them into defending average, everyday American criminals on the streets, American citizen criminals like the ones that we've seen here in New York City. So each time you see the left take the other side, whether it's lax law enforcement, lax immigration law, or, hey, let's side with the narco-terrorists, it's really something to behold.
So I want you to hear the Mark Kelly, who to me is the biggest disappointment in politics. I always thought this guy is going to be just doing what's right for the American people, astronaut, fighter pilot. Not at all. This guy is as politically oriented as Chuck Schumer. Cut 4.
Trump and Hegseth, they care more about publicity than they do about the rule of law. That's how I ended up finding out via a tweet that the Secretary of Defense was ordering an investigation into me. The same Secretary of Defense who has, from the moment he was nominated, has been historically unqualified for this position. The same Secretary of Defense who is reported to have ordered a second strike to kill shipwreck survivors in the Caribbean.
Shipwrecked survivors. Sounds like Gilligan's Island. It would happen to the skipper and Marianne. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Mark Kelly from Arizona, you would think he'd be more moderate, but not in the slightest, as you just heard there. And then we find out this new reporting, and it's been reported in at least 2 sources, that these, shipwrecked survivors, as they've been portrayed, were actually trying to get in touch, according to the reporting I've read, with others on retrieving some of these drugs. That's at least what was suspected by our team here who was conducting the strike. So you learn more facts by the day, but leave it to, I guess it was the Washington Post, the first one, to run with one source and try to frame Pete Hegseth and the administration in the most negative of lights.
So what they're trying to say is the Geneva Convention says when you hit somebody once and you go back to finish them off, that breaks the rule of war, which I find odd because Barack Obama, 585 strikes minimum of drone strikes. Oftentimes in Waziristan, Pakistan, Afghanistan, they say that they missed and they had to go back and finish the job. He blew up weddings where he killed a bunch of innocent people. Alawaki, when we took him out, we took out his entire family. Now, I know there was almost no noise about this for 8 years. So now you're upset when we say, there's the boat, there's the direction, this is what's in the cargo, we blow them up. But in one case, we didn't kill everybody. So now people are outraged that we didn't rescue the other two, but now the Wall Street Journal is reporting that those other two are looking to radio back to their cartel members that they needed help. That shows more danger. That alleviates this admiral that's going to be testifying today, or Pete Hegseth, who I'm sure they'll try to investigate.
Right. And as President Trump has said, I believe it was something like 25,000 lives are saved with each of these boat strikes. I mean, fentanyl pouring into our country. You have tons of Americans who have been killed, hundreds of thousands. There are real consequences. And President Trump's mind is, I want to take these guys out. I want to protect Americans. He sat across from these families who have been affected by fentanyl. That's his primary motive. But the hypocrisy is quite something when you compare the Obama years to this.
They really want to get Pete out. I mean, it's made the Democrats. Why do you think that is? Because they know he's so close to President Trump?
Yeah, I don't know why. They pick a target, they hone in. It seems like they're going after him. They've been going after Kash Patel. They're just out for a scalp. They want the effect to be the Trump administration falling apart. But President Trump is not that kind of guy. He stands behind his people. You've seen him, in the cabinet meeting, he went first to Pete Hegseth. I think that was by design. You go after my person, I'm just going to double down on them.
Right.
So President Trump stands by his people. And he said the same about Kash Patel when he came under fire last week.
What's your view on Rand Paul? He seems to be loving siding with Democrats. He said we should not be risking the lives of our nation's service members to engage in military action with Venezuela. This is why the framers gave the power to declare war to Congress, not the president. The American people do not want to be dragged into endless war with Venezuela without public debate or a vote. We ought to defend what the Constitution demands, deliberation before a war. This is at a point where you brief people. This is not a time when the president's even looking to go to war. He's looking to change the direction of the hemisphere. So he just does not want to do anything. I don't want to spend anything. I don't want any intervention. Iran is misunderstood. How do you deal with people like Tom Massey and Senator Rand Paul, Republicans?
Yeah, and I don't think anyone's talking about a long, protracted war with Venezuela. If they were, then Rand Paul would have a point. But I think you just lay out the facts. Yeah. Article 2, Commander-in-Chief power, gives the president the power to act on a limited basis. And that's what he is doing here with non-state actors. He's not at war with Venezuela. He's taking a limited strike, limited action in the national interest. Other presidents have done likewise. But, Rand Paul, I get that he's principled and that Congress has the power to declare war. That is true, Article 1, Section 8. But this is not a war. This is a limited strike, and other presidents have done it, and there's plenty of precedent. So I think he's getting ahead of his skis there with that assessment.
You could be I think you're being very kind to him. I don't understand why a phone call to the president could have handled it, but instead I think this guy thirsts for publicity. Mm-hmm. Let me go out there. I'll be a Republican coming against Trump, and then everyone's going to run to him. And now every show on MSNBC or whatever they're calling it says even Republicans want answers or are looking to take action. So I think there's a part of him, he just wants to be going against the grain.
And we see that with a few Republicans. And, who knows what their motive is. I do know Rand Paul, being a libertarian-minded person, has a definite view of foreign policy. But to your point, why not solve it with the president on the phone? Why give the left-wing media an opening to come in and just say Republicans are pummeling on President Trump? It's not a good storyline for anyone if you care about the betterment of the Republican Party.
So your response to what seems like a big blowout between Kamala Harris and Josh Shapiro, famously, as we all know and have gotten to learn, that Josh Shapiro thought he was going to be the front runner as the number 2. But I guess according to Kamala Harris, he came off too cocky. He was measuring the drapes in their meeting. How do we know this? I guess Josh Shapiro gave an interview to The Atlantic, at which time they read a passage from The Atlantic about from Kamala Harris's book to Josh Shapiro. And when they did that, he had an answer where he actually used an expletive, which you don't really get a lot on the other side. He said this. So Josh Shapiro, she wrote in her book when she said that he was asking to be on every single meeting and that he came off arrogant, measuring drapes. That's complete, utter BS. I can tell you that her accounts are just blatant lies. I mean, she's trying to sell books and cover her ass. The governor then stared past me, shaking his head. As I began to ask another question, he held up a hand. He looked disgusted. With me? With Harris? Question mark, question mark. No, I began to realize he was disgusted with himself. I shouldn't say cover her ass. I think that's not appropriate, Shapiro said. His tone suddenly sounded collected. She's trying to sell books. You went on to say, what seems to bother Shapiro more than any one detail was that Harris portrayed him in the way is consistent with the whispers that have dogged him throughout his vetting process through his career. He comes off as selfish, petty, maniacal, and maniacally ambitious. So 2 hits in one.
2 hits in one. I've got to say, on this side of Kamala versus Josh Shapiro, I'm siding with the Josh Shapiro side here. The reporting back during the election, which I remember vividly, and I'm paraphrasing it here, was that Tim Walz came in and was like, "How may I serve you, Kamala Harris?" And then you had Josh Shapiro, who came in and asked questions about the role, what it would be like, saying he wanted to be, a steady presence or hand in the administration. Questions that anyone should ask who's doing a job interview. And then he left with some reservations. And he didn't call and say, "I won't take the job." The reporting was he called and said, maybe it's better for me to remain governor. I'm having, these kind of equivocating thoughts. Well, that scarred Kamala Harris's ego. So I'm not surprised she torched him. I think she was afraid of him. He's far more accomplished, and I don't agree with him ideologically, but far more well-spoken than Kamala, better at his job, I would argue, than Kamala, the borders are. So I think she was intimidated. So when it comes to ambition, I think it was her ambition, not the ambition of Governor Shapiro.
What about the fact that he's Jewish?
Yeah, look, she takes shots at people's identities. We saw that with Pete Buttigieg there. She said that she couldn't choose a gay man. Maybe that was weighing on her. I don't know, because we were in a time where there's a lot of anti-Semitic rhetoric on the left with regards to Gaza and Israel. So that certainly could have played into it. Who knows? There were a myriad factors, but I think she was severely intimidated by him.
Kayleigh, Gavin Newsom says Democrats need to be more culturally normal while looking back at Harris's loss. And he went on to say that we complain too much and we whine too much as Democrats. That's one side of him where you think, wow, he's going to run up the middle. But then you see him the next day, he's trolling Trump, acting like a fake tough guy, pretending as if he doesn't have a job, which is devastated by fire and homelessness and over budget by billions of dollars. It's bizarre.
He's trying to thread this really tough needle where he wants to win a primary, so he has to cater to the far left. I mean, look who survives primaries these days. It's Democratic Socialists. So he's got to win a primary, but at the same time, he can't ostracize the middle, the independents, which is why he interviewed with folks like Charlie Kirk and expressed remorse, if you will, for biological men and women's sports and changed his position there. But I'm not sure you can quite thread that needle, because I don't think the left is going to let you get away with sowing a more middle-of-the-road position. I think you're going to see Newsom go further and further left and then try to shake it up, mix it up if he's to become the nominee, and track back to the middle and pray we all forget his record.
It's going to be interesting on the right. Do you expect J.D. Vance to almost run as an incumbent? Do you expect other Republicans not to bother the challenge? The Nikki Haley's, the Ron DeSantis, the Youngkins, the Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio? Do you expect people to say whatever Trump says goes?
At this moment in time, J.D. Vance is very popular with the base. He seems like the front runner, no doubt about it. Things can change in 2.5 years. I don't think it will be just him running. Those who have said, I think there's going to be this unity ticket and everyone's going to rally around and there won't be a primary. I don't think that will happen. I do think you will have some other highly accomplished conservatives.
You think it's good if it does happen?
No, that's terrible if that happens, because what makes you stronger is a primary. We see what happens when you don't have a primary. Look at Kamala Harris. Look, J.D. Vance is far more skilled than her, but a primary makes you better, makes you stronger, makes you tougher. You're exercising those muscles before you go out and face the opposite party. It would be bad for the party to just coordinate a unity ticket. So I'm hoping others throw their hat in the ring. And at the moment, J.D. Vance, a big front runner, but you never know. 3 years is a long time.
Here's the counter to that. Remember a while ago, but I remember Ford when he lost in the nomination, or came with thought about coming back. There was a lot of people thought he could have worked harder for Reagan, or Reagan could have worked harder for Ford when he lost the nomination. And then there's Bernie Sanders bitterly loses to Hillary Clinton, and we know it was rigged against him. I don't know that he ever jumped on board. And Hillary, when she loses epically to Barack Obama, didn't really get on board. It wasn't against him, but ended up being Secretary of State. I think it's hard to heal afterwards. Do you think so?
Yeah, there are challenges. We remember Ted Cruz with Donald Trump and, that scene at the RNC. Yes. But ultimately, I think most in our party, good, rock-solid conservatives, come around, unite the party around a common vision. But I think you've got to get through that period where the media is going to try to peg you as, a far-right person, whatever antics they're up to. It's always the same. You're racist, homophobic, xenophobic, the adjectives they have for the right. It's best to work those out. expose the left for what they are, and do that in a primary, and then hit the ground running with that muscle as strong as can be heading into the general.
Kayleigh, it's Thursday. I know you're doing Outnumbered first. Yes. What about Saturday? Do you know who you got for sure?
Yeah, so we're working on it now. We have a few ideas. I'm blanking at the moment, but it's going to be a great show. My team has sent me like 10 emails during Fox and Friends with you with our guests.
So when do you solidify your lineup? Usually Friday afternoon? Or?
Friday afternoon. I mean, you do a Saturday show too. It's like the news goes so fast in Trump world. So the reason, I don't have an answer today is because today's story is yesterday's news, and by Friday afternoon it all changes and we shake it all up, and we're working to the last moment.
Well, we're going to be watching on Saturday, and then we're watching Outnumbered in a couple hours. Kayleigh McEnany, thanks so much.
Thanks, Brian.
Having the military leading with strength is something the American people are really backing here in the survey. 64% of those surveyed supportive of the U.S. military giving their munitions to Ukraine.
So they did the Ronald Reagan Institute, they did a survey. It turns out the president's got a lot of support on Venezuela. He's got a lot of support when it gives weapons to Ukraine, and as well as the supporting of Israel went up 4%. Just an idea what's going on in this country with the president not even done with 1 year. Doug Collins in studio as we go through. Doug, when you are talking to with staffers at the White House, how aware are they of polls? Or how much do they look at surveys to decide what's next to plot and plan?
Yeah, I think it's always a part in a modern day political environment that they sort of know where, sort of feel of what's going on. But I think the president came into this term very much committed. I think in some ways this is a third term. It's an interesting third term, and I put it that way. He had 4 years he was attacked unmercifully for everything, and a lot of the stuff couldn't get done. A lot of stuff got done. Even some of the own party it was just a problem. And then it was almost like we had like they call a gap year now. We had a 4-year gap year, which was sort of taken from him as far as a second term. But then he comes back in with a lot of people who says, we now see what we can do and how to do it. So I think this year you've seen him come in with very much of a strategist, what we're going to do, and he's not varied from it. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, made a great point at the cabinet meeting the other day. He said, look, we've been, in his words, I'm going to use a little bit different words, but what he basically says, we've been planning this year, and the seeds are starting to grow. And he said, next year you're getting ready to see a big jump in what we've planted.
I don't have to tell you at the off-year elections how many people are talking about two much smaller races in Georgia, where you're from, and it didn't go the direction of Republicans. Can you tell me about those races? I know you're a secretary position now.
In my role as a Georgian, here's exactly what happened: 20% turnout, and Republicans sat on their rear ends. I'm being blunt. I love my folks.
What were the positions?
Yeah, it was Georgia Public Service Commission, which is over in our state. They oversee all public utilities. So the rate setting from like Georgia Power, the other EMCs, those kind of things. They set rates and look at that. And look, we've had some very high rates. We had a nuclear power plant that was built 20 years ago that's finally online now. Would have never happened under this administration because we got it done quicker. So just a lot of different things have been going on. So the people tapped into that. You're paying more. We'll blame them. Our candidates, I think they ran, but they ran late in a sense. But the biggest thing was 20% turnout. And when you have 20% turnout in the state, and it was in the 5 big, more liberal parts, I mean, again, Republicans – Brian, I think you and I have talked about this before, and stepping just from pure political. Republicans have to understand that there's election every 2 years. It's not just 4.
Right.
And we don't get that sometimes. And we got to know it for next year, because if they want to continue to see President Trump
do
this thing, then we got to show up next year in the congressional.
So what about they say the most flippable seat is John Ossoff in Georgia? Can be. Have you seen in that plethora of candidates one that's standing out above the rest? Not even what Doug Collins thinks is the best. Is anyone standing out above the rest?
Well, I think just in polling, we're seeing a sort of a solidification of it's Mike Collins, Buddy Carter, and Derek Dooley. I think in that order. The polls have sort
Vince Dooley's son.
Yeah. Yes. Far third place, not moving a whole lot. Buddy Carter, former colleagues, in the middle. Mike Collins is in about the 30s. I think right now, I want to wait about another 60 days. Get it after the first year, we'll see, because our primary is in May. We'll see where that actually turns out. So I think after about February, people start focusing in.
Right.
But that's where it's at right now. But either way, they're going to have to. Georgia Republicans, I think in a bigger sense here, have got to realize this is a race. This is one that you've got to show up on. It's one that matters. And I think there'll be plenty of contrast to this candidate from whoever steps forward.
So you mentioned that before you go, Doug, we're up against the break, but you mentioned that you have a few things in the works you're going to announce quick. Is there any type of hint you can give us?
Yeah, I think really what we're doing is VHA, which is our largest healthcare part. We're getting ready to put it as the tip of the spear of what we do instead of a support. We're going to give everything we can to our hospitals and clinics to let they make better decisions, quicker decisions for patients. That's going to be coming in a structure. It's taking everybody we currently have, but just putting them in the right places like a coach on a team. We're putting them in the right places. And then we're getting ready for what President Trump has always talks about, the community care aspect, which you asked about earlier. Our new contract is going to be going out pretty soon for bid. That is our new contract for 10 years. It's one of the largest contracts in the federal government for community care, so veterans can get care in the community and in direct care.
And we have, of course, America 250.
Oh, yes.
And celebrate.
Can't wait. We can't wait. The VA is ready for that.
Doug Collins, thanks so much. He's the 12th Secretary of Veterans Affairs, and we're happy to have him in studio always. Doug, continued success.
Thank you.
Back in a moment. So what is it like to sit in a 3-hour cabinet meeting? I don't know. I know what it's like to watch it. I don't know what it's like to be in it. The guy is used to it now. He's a veteran of it. He got confirmed a short time ago and doesn't regret a day of it. He is Secretary of Veterans Affairs. He is Doug Collins, back in studio, the former congressman from Georgia. Welcome.
Brian, it's good to be back.
So what was it like there for 3 hours? Have you ever been anything quite like this?
No, not those cabinet meetings are a hoot. I mean, it's become interesting now between the cabinet members. We know that it's going to be long, and we know that we're going to have the press in there. We got to sit there. So it's become sort of a running thing that we have our prep for cabinet meeting. We stop drinking about 2 hours ahead of time.
Yeah.
we take our glass, we take our cup, we sip it at a time, we get it all done. But I think it's great for the American people. I think they get to see the president, they get to see the cabinet, most of which, in previous administrations, they never ever did anything like this.
He met, I think, 4 times or 9 times in 4 years.
Oh yeah, and there was nothing real substance. No,
he didn't know who the people were.
Exactly. So it really, I think, gives the American people a look at what a cabinet looks like,
right.
The different departments, and yes, I had somebody say, "Well, you only talk about the good stuff." Okay, we're just going to get up and we're going to tell you what our departments are doing and where we're facing issues, but we're not going to sit there and look at this in a perspective of saying, here's what the American people wanted, here's what we're doing, and we're making it happen. And the thing about it is we are winning.
Right. In what respect?
I think the biggest thing is, especially at the VA, and from my perspective, the VA, we've made changes. We made more changes, substantive changes, in the 10 months that I've been in the seat than probably in the last few years. And I'm not taking anything away from previous directors or even under Republican administration. But when I stepped into the office, it was amazing the backlog of stuff that was either said, we need to change this, or what do you think about this, or make a decision about this. The previous administration, I'll be frank, though, punted a lot of stuff. They had lawsuits, they had, just stuff. And I just said, we're not going to do that. We're going to start handling issue by issue by issue. And we're starting to make a lot of change.
Are you staffed up yet?
Yes. Yeah, we're pretty well staffed up. We're still adding a few. I have the fewest political, what I'll call, we call politicals, folks who come in each administration, than almost any of the other departments, well, all the other departments for a size that we are. We're 450,000 people, and I've only got about 50 politicals. Compare that to like DHS, others, they got 200 politicals. And they got far less people than we have. So we have to do a lot with our what we call careers, those who've been there a while.
Why did you think slimming down would make you more efficient, and what have you found? How many people did you slim down to? We ended up, we never had to fire anyone. We never let anybody go on a RIF. We didn't even do any of that. We did an open invitation for early retirement, and we had 30,000 take early retirement. What we found, Brian, was it's almost like a ball team or an organization in which you have a lot of good people. I'm never going to diminish the people, but they just were in wrong places. And we're getting ready here in just the next couple of weeks to talk about a reorganization of our hospitals and our healthcare clinics and stuff. And it's 90% of what we do, so 300,000+ people.
And but what we're finding is a lot of them were put in just jobs that were sort of made jobs. They were taking them away from clinical positions. And we had too many. I call them camel committees. Everything was a committee. And so you'd have these groups that were hired to look at this, and in 3 years down the road, they really wasn't making any decisions. And many times the decisions being made were by people who had not been in the hospitals. So those are the kind of things we just slim down. So when you take the effort and say, only thing we're going to worry about is the veteran, whether it's disability claims, whether it's health care, cemetery, whatever, and you start focusing the attention on that, then you take it off the organization. What they had done, especially in the 4 years previous to us, they had added 80,000 people, $100 billion, and numbers had went down. Metrics had went the wrong way. And just in the 10 months we've been doing it, we've dropped the backlog 160,000 plus, almost to 5 and 6 year lows. And all this with people.
What is the policy? Did it ever take hold, or was it ever reversed where veterans who are not near a veterans facility can use their local doctor?
Yeah, we brought it back. Actually, it's actually the law, which was sort of mind-blowing to me because I was in Congress when we passed it, and it was just getting started in Trump 1, toward the end of Trump 1. Basically, the Democrats, the Biden administration said we don't like this because they were beholden to basically workers and unions, and they wanted. That was the reason the place built up. It was just a worker-driven thing. And I said, we're not a jobs program, we're a healthcare organization and stuff. So what we did is we went back and said, look, we're going to make sure that if they want to come and we're going to give them the absolute best care they can have at a center or one of our healthcare hospitals or centers. But if they want to see a local doctor, it's more convenient for them and their caregiver, then we're going to do that. I instituted a thing called best medical interest. Again, one of these things has been thought about for a long time. I just said, no, we're going to do it. And we started it in May. We've increased our best medical interest about almost 20 percentage points of people who sit with their doctors and say, look, for me, my caregiver, on this issue, I want to go see this person. And it's made a world of difference. People are happier. They're getting quick appointments, sometimes quicker, sometimes not. I mean, I think we're a healthcare system, and everybody has to understand that. We're just like NYU Medical. We're just like everybody. We compete in the same areas. We're the only ones, though, that ever have to talk about how our wait times are. Nobody else does.
First time in a long time, we don't really have a hot war. You know, the way we left Afghanistan is abysmal, but that means that we didn't have anyone deployed over there. We know people are 450 are at risk in Syria. We got 2,200 over in Iraq, and we know there's special operations going on throughout Africa all the time. I got it. But it's not 200,000 troops anyplace. How has that affected the whole VA system?
Well, I think it's given us the time in some of our areas to sort of just, like in the military, which I've served in now, still I got about 6 more months and I'm retiring. Right. So, but it's given us the time to sort of take an assessment, sit back, and take a breath and say, okay, where are we at now? Because one of the things that's not been talked about a lot, Brian, is this generation, the GWAT generation, I'll call it, these last 20 plus years, many were young. So now you say they were 18, 19, 21 in 2002, 3, 4, and 5. Now they're getting into their 40s. Some of them come back with catastrophic injuries. Some of them come back with injuries we're just finding out about, as they go along. So really for us, it's a reassessment on how we handle the long-term mental health and strain that we saw in that area to go along with the physical injuries that were coming out of it.
What about the suicide rate among veterans?
Yeah, it's still one is too high. This was one area for me that we've changed since even last time you and I talked. I've changed completely the structure on how we handle suicide prevention. We're spending $500 million a year, almost $6 billion, on prevention, but yet we were only those who are committing death by suicide. 60% of those folks had never been in touch with the VA. So I said, we're like a choir that sings to ourselves. We're not talking to the right people. So we've switched.
You have to recruit veterans and tell them you're out there?
Yeah, well, you have to go tell them, because there's so many of them that either had an experience, the ones that are at risk are not in the VA, you got to look at it this way. Older veterans, Vietnam, Korea, and even though they traditionally went toward the social organization, and VSOs, American Legion, Forum, VFWs, all these folks. This group doesn't really do that. So there's a lot of them that are just out there on their own. They go to nonprofits. There's some that they see. But we're going now to podcasts. We're going to we're revamping how we monitor or how we get the word out to say, hey, it's okay to get help. Right. And if we can do that, look, and even if it's not at the VA, just get help somewhere.
Right. Couple of things. I want you to hear what President Obama said about this administration and the people you work with. Top 3.
I would not expect the politicization of the Justice Department or our military. There's been resistance, particularly in the military, to that, but the degree to which that has been encouraged, that used to be something that I would lecture other countries not to do.
So he's disappointed in you guys.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Right.
That is someone who absolutely has no self-awareness. This is someone who, under his own tenure, really took the politicization to the next level. He may have lectured other countries not to do it, but he was winking and nodding at his own Justice Department. He was winking and nodding at his own Defense Department, where we were seeing the move away from meritocracy. We were seeing the move away, especially in some of this in the military.
And the insertion of DEI.
The insertion of DEI, the insertion of everything else. But that, if it wasn't so completely ludicrous, if his statement just was not so on its face wrong, you would just bawl out laughing here. But it's sad because here's a former president who many still look at as this, beacon
Democratic
icon who's basically lying. His Department of Justice was awful. Eric Holder, remember that one?
The wingman.
Oh my God.
But he didn't politicize it. But
No,
he said,
politicize
call me
it.
the president's wingman.
I'm just the wingman. I'll do whatever I need to do. Then you went into the beginnings of what we saw in Russia, which I was a part of. And we talked years ago now. All of that came under him.
You were a leader, part of?
Yeah.
You were a leader pushing back on
We
that.
were. And to see the stuff now that has come back in 7-8 years after we came back in and were able to look into it, stuff we knew then. We just didn't maybe have the piece of paper because they were hiding them in closets or whatever. But for him to say that is just a joke. And to look, say what you want about this cabinet. People are going to make fun because they don't like the president. They're going to tell, we're unqualified. I hear this all the time. But look at the results for the American people. Our defense our recruitment's out, skyrocketed. We're closed the border. Veterans are getting care quicker, faster, and better. We're looking at opening up our energy reserves. We're looking at opening up our markets. We're looking at, this. You may not like it, but it's actually working.
Right. And it seems like you guys like each other.
We do.
And I was listening to RFK talk to the vice president, and he just says that they like getting together. Yeah. They like being around each other.
Yeah.
So it's so different from the last term. Because I know you were tight with you were tight with the president, but you were still a congressman.
Yeah.
So and there was a lot. Mattis didn't want to come over, right? And what a bad choice Tillerson was, and John Kelly thought it would be a good idea to try to rein in the president. Never really was a fan of the president as chief of staff. Man, that's changed. Can you give me an idea what it's like with Susie Wiles there?
I can't. Susie is such a calming influence. And she's one of those that, if you remember back, you and I are old enough to remember what E.F. Hutton commercials, when E.F. Hutton speaks, everybody listens. Well, she may not say a lot, but when she does, we all know that it's been thought out, it's planned, it's what the president's looking for, it's what we need to do. But I think the dynamic between us, I told somebody this the other day, this cabinet, and I looked around the room, I had either worked with or served with almost everybody in the cabinet and knew them on a personal level. Only a few that I did not know on a personal level. But we get together to eat together. We just no meetings, no. We just got pizza together. We call each other. If I need something at DOD, I call Pete. If Pam needs something, or if I say, Pam, I need some help over here. Can you give us some direction? I call Pam. Brooke, if it's
really important, isn't it? That's
very important.
Underappreciated.
So important. It's so important.
Back with more of the VA Secretary, Doug Collins, former congressman from Georgia. He's in studio. Don't move. Hey, we are back with one of our favorite all-time people, Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy. Used to be at Fox full-time. Now he can't get him a pass that works. He's got to come in with the security and ask for a favor to get in. But he's on a lot, and it's our favor when he's actually on. Mr. Secretary, welcome back.
It's good to be with you, Brian. Yeah, they locked the doors at Fox on me, so yeah, I can't get in. I got to text you and go, Brian, can you open the doors for me? Can I get into the building?
Because you travel with a big footprint these days. Mr. Secretary, how are you involved with FIFA? What is the word? I mean, it's going to be key. I was at the Super Bowl in the Meadowlands, and I'll tell you, it was a disaster. Nothing to do with you. You could not get in or out. Everyone waiting in the freezing cold weather. How do you beat that in the hot summer?
So I don't want to overstate it, Brian, but the players are important, the coaches are important, the fans are important, but probably the most important thing that happens at these games is the Department of Transportation. Not trying to overstate it. Seriously, though, we everybody moves on planes and trains and automobiles and transit systems. Yeah. And so again, to make the games go off, well, there's going to be 11 million people that that fly into the U.S. to watch these games.
Right.
While they're here, they're going to fly to the different host cities. They're going to take trains to the different host cities, or motor buses to the different host cities. All of the television equipment that comes into the games, to the food, the hot dogs, the beer, everything has to be choreographed by the Department of Transportation. So we started working on this a year, when we first got in office, almost a year ago. Putting teams together to make sure we have the right equipment, the right buses, the right assets in place to make sure the fans have a fantastic experience enjoying soccer, as opposed to what you just mentioned, a frustration of, standing, waiting, trains broken or buses not working or traffic jams. All of that is being worked out to make sure this is the greatest World Cup games ever. And it's going to be hosted by the U.S. and hosted on her 250th birthday.
So I was lucky enough to be with you for the club championships. And we know that was not easy getting to that final. So I guess it's going to be more challenging now. Out of all the venues off the top of your head, and I'm going to hold you to it, what do you think is built best for the people, for the ticket holders? And what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge? Would it be New Jersey?
Well, I think Miami is, we work with
Dallas.
Miami. We're going to work with New Jersey. Yes, exactly. So, but I think all of them have unique challenges, which is why our teams then work together to figure out, okay, how do we overcome those challenges? If there's additional assets that are needed, if there's additional cars for rail, if there's additional buses that are needed on transit, we are going to deploy those assets to those communities that don't have enough to make sure this massive flow gets in and out. And again, each additional unique challenge each host city has, we're working through right now to alleviate. And again, this is the first time a lot of travelers will come to the U.S. And they're coming to watch these games. What's also interesting? There's a perception around the world that America doesn't want people to come to our country. Untrue. We've worked with state and with Homeland and DOT all together to say, listen, we welcome everybody to come to the country. We want you to come and stay in our hotels and eat in our restaurants, spend your hard-earned money, drive in our economy, see our beautiful country. It's just what we said is we don't want people to overstay their visas. We want people to come in as authorized, and when the games are over, they got to go home. But I think there's been a misconception, Brian, that because we say we want people to follow the rules, that we don't want them to come. No, we want you to come and follow the rules, and that's why I think we're going to have just great people coming in, and the games are going to be awesome. I was just talking to Kobe from Fox Sports.
Kobe Jones.
He's like, I was asking him, like, what do we want to see in the draw for the U.S. team? And he's like, he didn't want to really tell me, but he's like, I know what I'm looking for. We want an easier draw. There's some teams we don't want to play, some teams we do, and then he won't go any further. But but Fox Sports has it for the U.S., and it's going to be just fantastic. The draw is tomorrow. The president's going to be there. 1 billion people around the world are going to tune in to watch the draw from the Kennedy Center tomorrow. I mean, it is globally massive. I think this will be the biggest stage the president has ever when he speaks tomorrow at the Kennedy Center.
So you also a part of what the president announced yesterday. You got all the CEOs of the major car companies there to announce CAFE standards, how much you can actually build a car and how many miles per gallon will it get. It's going to drop from 50, which was almost unobtainable and very costly, to 34 miles per gallon. What's that going to do for the price of cars or how we drive?
Take a step back. There's no combustion engine that can get 50 plus miles to the gallon. It can't. We don't have the technology. But Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg, they drafted a standard that used EVs, electric vehicles, and hybrids to come up with a standard that was way higher than a combustion engine could meet. And the law that was passed in the 70s is very specific. It's only for combustion engines. No other technology. You can't use an EV. You can't use a hybrid. And so by breaking the law, they got this really high standard. Then we had car companies that were trying to invest in technology to come closer to the really high standard that was set by Biden and Buttigieg. They couldn't meet it, but they were spending $100 billion a year to meet it. On top of that, if you couldn't meet the standard, Brian, I don't know if you've thought much about carbon trading. It's not good for the country.
Yeah.
But there's carbon trading between the auto in the auto companies. So if you don't meet the standard, you could go to a Rivian or a Tesla and you could buy carbon credits to the tune of $1 billion a year were being spent on carbon credits or taxes. So these were all adding up in additional costs for your car. Bringing those costs down, number one, is important for the American consumer, but it's going to let the car companies make cars and trucks that Americans want to buy, not the cars and trucks that Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden wanted them to build. Really important. This new rule, I'm a 1970s guy at heart because I fondly remember, my parents' big family. We had station wagons. You can bring a station wagon back if you want, maybe some wood paneling, Brian, on the side.
I know, glued on.
Yes, you can bring a station wagon back. We want car companies to make products that you want to buy. If I want to buy a muscle car, let me buy a muscle car. And by the way, everyone's concerned about gas prices. I was just back in Wisconsin a day and a half ago, and gas prices were like at $2.45. Mm-hmm. I mean, gas prices are coming down. Let's build more cars in America.
Right.
And if we get newer cars in the country because they're products that Americans want to buy, that means we have safer cars on our roads. And if people get in crashes, it's going to save their lives. We'll have less death, more life by this rule.
So I want you to hear some of the CEOs yesterday from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. The first one is Jim Farley, cut 22.
This allows us to invest in affordable vehicles made in the U.S., which we will take the lead on, and will allow us to make vehicles more affordable. So thank you for making this step for all of you.
Because it's the day where we see cafe regulation reconciled with real customers' demand. We believe in growth, and we are ready to invest even more.
I'm here representing the hard-working men and women of Orion Assembly in Michigan. The facility, our manufacturing facility there, is currently going through a retool so that we can build additional U.S. manufactured pickup trucks and full-size sport utilities for our customers, and we're so excited about that.
So you got GM, Stellantis, which Chrysler. I can't believe, by the way, you have to let an Italian guy own Chrysler. We have to fix that. And that sale never should have been forced by Barack Obama. But and then, of course, the Ford CEO. So they're pretty happy. One guy that isn't, Sean, is this guy, Governor Gavin Newsom, cut 23.
You're selling new knee pads for all CEOs, universities, and GOP bending the knee to Donald Trump.
And they were sold out, just like our universities were selling out, just like our law firms were selling out, just like a lot of CEOs were selling out this country, our future, our republic.
So what are your thoughts about Gavin Newsom says these guys are caving to Donald Trump?
No, the problem is that Gavin Newsom is caving to an idea that doesn't work for the American consumer. We've said the American consumer should dictate what kind of cars they want to buy. And again, I'm not opposed to fuel efficiency standards, Brian. We should gradually push our cars to be more fuel efficient. That's a good thing. If you want to buy an EV, you should be able to buy an EV. But Gavin Newsom is forcing Californians to purchase vehicles they don't want to buy. He wants to bring them all onto EVs by 2031. And the problem with that is in California, they already don't have enough electricity. And you can't power these cars and homes and businesses with wind and solar. So it's a lie that he's going to have power sourced by fossil fuels. And so it's a little shell game that he's playing. But again, why is Gavin Newsom so upset with the American consumer who wants to buy something that other than what he wants them to buy? And again, this is big government at its worst. You have government policies that force us to buy things that the market doesn't want. It's the old Soviet Union model that has always failed.
Right.
Bring us back to consumer choice. And if you want to buy an EV, God bless you, get an EV. They're great cars, and they might work for you in the city.
Real quick, 20 seconds, Sean.
Wisconsin, Brian, doesn't work.
Yeah, real quick. Why are you doing anything to build up these charging stations?
So I was forced into the EV charging stations real quick. What I've done is that if you're going to spend $4 billion on charging and you're going to make me do it, damn it, we're going to build charging stations.
Good.
You're not going to have 10 charging stations for $2 billion. If you're going to make me build them, we're going to build charging stations. We're going to use the taxpayer dollar well. I prefer we don't spend the money on that. The Congress has forced it, so we're going to make you build charging stations like the Congress intended.
Awesome. Mr. Secretary Sean Duffy, always busy, always productive. Thanks so much for the quality time.
Thanks, Brian. God bless.
You claim that you and your wife haven't gotten in a fight in 10 years.
That's right.
Are you lying?
No, I'm not lying. Travis, shall we ask you the same questions?
Well, it's only been 2.5 years, and you're right. I haven't gotten in an argument. All right. Never once.
Honestly, neither of us are going to win the argument, so why get in it?
There we go.
There you go.
That's a smart man right there.
Yeah, no.
What's the secret? Just staying out of the argument altogether?
Dude, I'm 64 years old. What am I going to argue about at this point? I'm like, I met this incredible woman that, she's beautiful and smart, and she stands for all the most important things that I believe in the world. And I can't believe how lucky I am. So what am I going to fight about? I'm like,
it's a great answer.
I mean, it's an effective answer. Maybe George Clooney's telling the truth. He's on the Kelsey podcast, and that's when everyone focused not on what George Clooney said, but on what Kelsey said. And he says he never had to fight in 2.5 years. So
between Travis and Taylor Swift.
Yeah, between Travis, so I should say that. And Jason is the other guy, that's his brother. And I guess clearly he's in a more normal relationship because clearly he fights.
They also have 4 kids.
Right. So you have to, how do you not fight? To me, this is my point today on Fox and Friends when this came up. I'm not saying they're lying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that what you do is you keep your disagreements to yourself, and it's not healthy.
See, I agree with that with normal couples. However, I think for them, 2 things. One, how are they defining argument? Are they little bickering? Are they saying that's an argument? Are they thinking full-fledged, real, brawl
3
fight?
cops.
Yeah. And then my other thing is, especially for Clooney, even Travis and Taylor, they live a life where they probably don't need to bicker over the laundry and the dishes because people are likely doing that for them.
Right.
So think if you didn't need
Certainly
to worry
money.
about any of that.
Isn't money the number one thing people argue about?
Yes, that's a big one too. So if they're not worried about finances or keeping the house clean, be like, why do you leave your pants on the floor again? Put them away. Then there's not
You
too
mean
much
there's somebody
else.
who picks up the pants?
That's usually the wife.
Right. No, but
for them, it's the housekeeper.
For them,
Yeah.
it's somebody else.
Exactly.
So they literally could just drop their clothes where they are and keep walking.
And the wife then's probably not mad because she's not the one picking them up.
Right. So you've removed a lot of the small fights.
Exactly.
So the big fights are, where have you been for the last week?
And then it's usually
And then you
shooting
go,
a movie.
Did you see Berlin? I was in Sweden. You saw me on stage. Well, I don't believe you. Well, look on YouTube.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So I think a lot of
Where
them.
were you Sunday? Losing to the Cowboys?
Exactly. I do think, though, the other thing you said on Fox and Friends is with ways and directions, how it also removes a lot of things to fight about.
So you like that point. Nobody knew what I was
Actually,
talking
you know
about.
what? I understand that point, but I disagree with you in that Andy is terrible at following it, so we fight over it a lot because he misses the turn all the time. And he's like, you didn't remind me. I'm like, it's right in front of your face.
Bro,
How did you miss the turn?
Or I'm accused of following the directions too much. So when the road barely splits and I'm just looking, I'm trying to follow the path. He's like, why do you do that? Just pick up your head and make your own decisions.
See?
So we do fight about it a little bit. But it turns out I had a referee look at all the fights, and I'm right most of the time.
Obviously, just like in life.
Yep.
People are expecting us to come up with a solution.
I think the average American doesn't care what flavor the legislation is, as long as it takes care of the challenges they have.
If there's going to be a big idea, that will not happen by January 1, 2026.
Whatever your plan is, we've got to bring the cost down.
I have been saying for months that we have got to reach some sort of a solution on premiums.
We just have to, put our best proposal on the table and see how the chips fall.
And what they're talking about is, on a bipartisan way, trying to fix the fact that by legislation, the rescue package, the subsidies given to people of hundreds of percents over the poverty line were given to people during the pandemic. And they were supposed to sunset this year. And they were supposed to be done. And now that they're done, they're saying Republicans are jacking up rates. Well, we know that was a folly and the government got shut down because of it, not jacking up rates. This was the way the legislation was written to pass. And now they're trying to make it that it's up to Republicans to fix it. However, if you look at just the people, they are getting a lot of their rates, sometimes double. So they say, what about these subsidies for the $24 million they get Obamacare? Because you can't go into this pool because almost every major healthcare company is out of the pool. So the government is pretty much the healthcare company, health insurance company. Senator James Lankford is always going across the aisle when he can. Homeland Security, Intelligence, and Finance committees. Senator, welcome back. Are you guys working on something that's tangible for a healthcare fix?
Yeah, we are, Brian. Thanks. I appreciate the good explanation that you had there. People are losing track. This is not Obamacare. This is subsidies on top of Obamacare because Obamacare is driving up prices so much for everybody. During COVID, Democrats put in an additional subsidy just to be able to try to hold down rates. But everyone, every single person is having issues with their health insurance costs because of what we said 15 years ago. Obamacare will cause costs to rise, not go down, and it has. And now you're right. They're trying to be able to blame Republicans because of what Democrats pass. Doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so now we're trying to be able to figure out what do we do to be able to help people that are in a really, really bad situation right now to be able to get through it. And long term, how do we actually get more healthcare choice back to Americans so prices can come down?
So I guess Bill Cassidy is Senator Cassidy, a former doctor, I guess current doctor. You could still go back if he chose. He's leading it on the Republican side. And on the House side, a bipartisan group set to meet with Bill Cassidy to talk about this. It's led by Josh Gottheimer, a Democrat from New Jersey, and Jen Kiggins over in Virginia. They'll unveil their idea of a plan. Do you have any idea what are some of these elements that might be possible?
I do. I will let Cassidy roll the full thing out, but he and I met yesterday with a group of Republican senators to be able to talk through this. We met actually the day before to be able to talk about it. I met with a group of Democrats yesterday to try to make the pitch on this. The goal is not to just hand more money to insurance companies and hope that they'll actually handle it well. The goal is to give more flexibility back to individuals, especially that group of individuals that are between 55 and 64. That group is the one that's actually seeing the skyrocketing rates. Other rates are going up 3, 4, 5, 8, 10%. But if you're 55 to 64, your rates may be going up 100%, 200%, 300%, depending on the company that you're with. These are folks that some of them dropped out from their employer or they retired early because the Obamacare deal was such a good deal after COVID with all the additional subsidies. But now those subsidies are going away and they're finding out, oh, wait, getting an Obamacare wasn't such a great idea. But now they got to be able to figure out what are they going to do on health insurance.
So, you know what's amazing? I'm looking at this chart now about how other countries are doing with their health care. We're spending on average between $13,000 per person. Our life expectancy is 78 years old. Our obesity rate is 42.7%. Give you an example. Switzerland, they're spending $9,000. They're living another 6 years, and their obesity rate is 12%. Germany, $8,000. That's almost about half of ours. They're living to 80. And their obesity rate's 21%. So I can keep going down. Everyone's spending considerably less than us. So we're not trying to rob anyone of health care, but it's not paying off. I mean, anyone can see this.
Yep. The system that was created is a problem, and it is driving up the rates for everybody. Everybody loses track. The Obamacare marketplace is about 20 million people, but the way that it was shaped and what was done is really affecting everybody in every healthcare issue. And what Democrats are fighting for is more subsidies for those folks, those 20 million folks that are in the marketplace. But everybody else is paying a lot more for their insurance. They're like, yeah, you're on your own. We're actually trying to figure out, no, how do we actually bring down healthcare rates for everybody, not just the 20 million that are on the subsidies in Obamacare? What do we need to do to actually slow down the rate of spending, but also maintain good quality that's out there? And there are ways to do that, dealing with the way we handle pharmaceuticals. I mean, there's all kinds of different things that are out there that we can do. We've made a lot of proposals on this, but so far the fight ends up coming back to Obamacare. But again, if you're in it, you're like, I don't care how it gets solved. Just make sure it gets solved. We're trying to figure out how to fix the short term and then how to fix the long term as well.
So, I mean, the most logical thing is this. Okay, we'll give you the money, but we're going to put it into health savings account. We're going to make sure that these people that are not shouldn't be eligible aren't eligible. So you clean that up. Maybe it's 10%. You clean that up. But is it impossible, logistically to set up everyone with healthcare savings accounts and put money in it?
Yeah, it's not impossible logistically to do. You got to hustle to be able to get it done. to be able to do that. But it would still mean the first quarter, those folks that have these really, really high rates, especially from 55 to 64 years old, that group that's really experiencing that would have a very difficult first quarter. But to try to be able to figure out then how to be able to get some additional assistance to them to be able to get through the rest of the year. But again, it's getting to them, not to the insurance company, and it's trying to be able to find a way to long-term drive down the rates, not to just continue to subsidize a bad deal. And my great state of Oklahoma that I know everybody wants to live in, but only those of us that are Okies actually get to live there all the time. But in my state, the Obamacare marketplace plans, if you take away all the subsidies, just the actual cost of it has gone up 200% in 6 years, while commercial insurance has gone up 29%. There is a problem in the Obamacare marketplace. We can't just ignore that by pouring more taxpayer money on top of it and thinking that's going to solve it. It doesn't.
So I want to bring you, hopefully we'll get that done. Do you feel as though there's a chance that Democrats are doing this a whole head fake? They want this issue to run on?
Oh, there's some that definitely do. There's some that definitely just want to be able to run on it and say all Republicans are terrible. They're mean people that don't care about your health insurance. That's totally true. There are a lot of Democrats who are also saying, hey, there's a problem in my state and I want to make sure I'm taking care of people. What's interesting is the way they shaped the Obamacare subsidies is they went around what's called the Hyde Amendment, so they could send federal money to subsidize abortion. It's the only area in all of healthcare that subsidizes abortion, not VAs, not Indian Health System, not Medicare, not Medicaid, not TRICARE, not any of those systems. All those, you can't fund abortion with your federal dollars. If you're going to do an abortion, you got to pay for it yourself on it if your state allows that. But in Obamacare, they made sure the subsidies could get to be able to support abortion. It's one of the things that we've raised as well to say, hey, if you want a Republican to be able to come on board and be able to help fix this, we've also got to make this health care the same as the rest of federal health care. That is, federal tax dollars don't go to pay for people's elective abortions. That shouldn't be that way. We as Republicans believe that every life is valuable and precious. Why would we want to have to pay to take life?
So many people in Oklahoma served in the military or are serving, so they understand what happened in Afghanistan, the embarrassment it caused this nation, and the danger it looks like we are in domestically. So, Senator Lankford, we know what happened in Afghanistan. One of these guys that came over got asylum from the Trump administration through the current system that was in place in April. He got asylum, but he came here during the big evacuation, had worked with the CIA, and it becomes a killer. And we have another National Guardsman holding on for his life after he killed the woman. Now, while we're talking about this, I got a call from a veteran in Oklahoma, and he says he has another I want you to hear this. We can listen to it together. I want you to hear what he's worried about. Listen.
I can relate to that a little bit. Like I've been United States Marine combat veteran, and my interpreter is back here in the States, and I don't know what he was promised. I don't know what he was told, but he's very disgruntled. Like, I've been on the phone with him frequently, and he's going through like a mental hiatus, and I've been, worried about him a lot.
And he went on to say this.
I mean, he's complaining about everything from taxes to his wife was incarcerated for abusing their children, and he doesn't understand how that's a problem here. Like, the culture, they're not used to it, and he's like, "Why won't they let my wife out?" And I'm like, "Well, buddy, this is what you signed up for. This is what you came over for. Like, this is why you're here." And he can't go home, and he knows that. Like, he's got a target on his head if he goes back home. Like, he knows that. So,
Senator, what happened in Washington, if this is his fixer, they were shoulder to shoulder in Afghanistan, and the guy says it has snapped. This is the problem we're having with the hundreds of thousands who came here, tens of thousands.
Yeah, it is the big challenge that we've faced, and a lot of us have talked about for a long time. It's not just the folks that, like that great Marine was telling you about his translator, where he's staying in contact. He's got relationships. This is a trusted source. We all know there were folks that were jumping onto those planes that we had no idea who they were, that were getting in, that we didn't have any background. There wasn't full vetting. It's not like we could go to the government of Afghanistan and ask for additional details from them about the background for some of these people and these family members that were getting on board. What the Biden administration let in were saying, hey, we didn't have any records on this person, that they were active in terrorism. That doesn't mean they weren't, that just means we don't know if they were. We don't have any evidence of it, and that's one of the big challenges that we're facing. And then plus, what he's also identifying there is, hey, the culture is incredibly different between Afghanistan and the United States. If you come to the United States and you grew up in Afghanistan and all of that culture, and you bring it here and say, hey, I expect to be able to live the same way here. Well, guess what? We don't live the same way here. And for folks from all over the world that come here and join us and are a part of the American dream on it, we welcome people from around the world, but we also say you've got to be able to adopt who we are and our culture to be able to do that, and our law to be able to do that.
I know. It's just these are real world problems that we're having in our world today. So just lastly, on these Venezuela and Maduro,
yeah.
What do you do you feel as though you're fully informed about what the president and Secretary of State Rubio's plan is?
No, I'm not yet on that, and I serve on the Intelligence Committee. I've actually asked for additional information, and that's one of the things. The Trump administration is getting better at actually trying to be able to get us more and more information, and it's something the members of Congress, both sides of the aisle, have said, hey, just we always ask for information on this. We want to know the details. Accountability is good for everybody, regardless of party. This is not a matter of trust. This is just basic transparency and accountability to the process. The one thing I can tell you is I am thrilled that the president is stepping up to say we will not allow cartels to be able to get drugs into our country. The last 5 presidents have said we're not going to allow drugs into our country. Trump is actually stopping them. He's actually saying we're not going to do this. We're serious about it. If you're trying to be able to come in and kill our people, we're going to stop you. If you're a foreign terrorist organization or foreign cartel trying to be able to bring in drugs to be able to kill 100,000 Americans a year, we're going to stop you before that actually comes. So that's a good thing. We just need additional details in the process and how they're prosecuting all of that. Maduro is a narco-terrorist dictator that is not duly elected in Venezuela. He's not the legitimate leader there, and he is facilitating drugs coming into the United States to be able to prop up his illegitimate government. So we should treat him that way.
So I would just love also, we have to find out, too, is China living up to not sending the precursors over here? You know, our FBI director was there a month ago, and he said, I think they're serious about it this time. Can you tell our listeners what's going on?
Yeah, China is saying that they're going to slow down the movement of these precursor drugs into Mexico and into Canada that are then being processed there and then brought right into the United States. China is a communist nation. They know what's actually leaving out from their borders. There's no question that they watch and inspect everybody doing everything. This is not a free country like it is here in the United States. So we'll see. China's made a lot of promises. We'll see if they actually keep those promises in the days ahead. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of us that are paying very, very close attention to that to say words are helpful, actions are better.
Yeah, so you stop cocaine and you stop the cartels, you stop the trafficking, you stop the money, and you stop the fentanyl. It's all one. So I just wish people would stop playing politics with it, but I guess I've stopped expecting that. Senator James Lankford, thanks so much. Hopefully we have some type of bipartisan agreement on health care.
Yep, we got to be able to take care of people in the short term, and then long term, we've got to be able to solve this and to be able to deal with the massive problem that Obamacare has created in our healthcare system.
All right, go get him, Senator. Thanks so much.
Keep praying for the nation. Merry Christmas.
Absolutely, you too.